So I'd like to welcome our first guest onto the program, Michelle Snyder, Chief Marketing Officer with Welltok, leading developer of the industry's first consumer enterprise platform. Michelle, nice to have you on the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Doug. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, good to have you here. Before we kind of take a deeper dive into the survey that you did with National Business Group on Health, give our audience a nice background on Welltok, if you would, please.
Sure. Well, Welltok is a health optimization company, and really our goal is to help individuals link their actions and behaviors, healthy actions and behaviors, to getting incentives and rewards. So what we've done is developed a platform that helps consumers optimize their health through the sponsorship by either their employer, their health plan, or a hospital. And through that partnership, creating itineraries for them which have different actions that they can take to then get rewarded for being healthy. And those actions, I think in the past have been mostly around physical behaviors. That's how we've often thought about health. But more and more we're seeing the actions that individuals as well as their sponsors want them to take are extending into other realms, such as actions around their financial health, their social health, and their emotional health. So our platform basically creates these individual itineraries for consumers, basically a list of things that they can do around those four areas to get rewarded for being healthy.
Oh, that's great. Michelle, you recently completed a survey you did with National Business Group on Health, which was a survey of 1,000 full-time employees of large employers on really getting their thoughts around the employee wellness programs. Talk a little bit about what was the genesis of doing this. Why did you and NBGH come together to conduct this survey?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. Well, one of the things when we were looking in the market at surveys that had been done is many of the surveys had often been done to the employers, right, asking them about the programs they were doing and the benefits they saw with those programs. But we hadn't really seen that many surveys, one, that were with the employees, and then two, that kind of went beyond kind of that physical dimension of health and really tried to dig in deeper to understand not only what they were doing with regards to health and wellness with their employers, but what they wanted their employers to be offering them. And then also, we wanted to dig in more to understand the differences between employee types, right? So how does what an employee want from their employer vary by gender, by age, right? You're seeing, more and more divisions, people talking about the divisions between younger workers and older workers in the workforce, right? Trying to understand, are there different types of programs that the younger or older workers would want? Who motivates them to get healthy at work? And if that's different, employers and other population health managers would then need to think differently about what kind of programs they offer and how they promote those programs.
Yeah, so talk about some of the highlights, and what are some of the key findings, and what may be some surprises that came out of these findings that you saw.
Sure. So I think one of the things that was most exciting for us to see was that employees really do value the programs that their employers are providing. So when we asked about the four different types of programs, physical health, social connectedness, financial security, and emotional health programs, of the employees that participated in the programs, there was high value given to those programs. Anywhere from 75% of the people that participate in the emotional health programs found them valuable to 81% of the people that participate in the physical health programs. Now, the flip side to that is that less than half of the employees actually were participating in the programs, right? So if you looked at the financial health programs, it was around 50%. But then if you looked at other programs like the financial health programs or the emotional health programs, that was down in the 35 to 40% range. So we dug into that a little bit more, and what we found really were two things that were driving why people were not participating. One was lack of awareness of the programs. That was maybe not so surprising because we know that's been an issue with some employers. But the other one was really personalization and people feeling that the programs were not relevant to them and that they would participate if the programs were more relevant. So I think, that was a really interesting finding for us. I think the other thing we found was about motivation, right, and who motivates people at work. So many of the programs have traditionally been driven kind of through the HR department, and which came up on our survey as one of the top 3 motivators. But really the top 2 motivators that came out were people's colleagues at work, right, and their peers, and then also their direct managers. And the interesting thing there was that the degree to which people were motivated by those 2 segments, colleagues and peers and direct managers, was actually different if you broke out the population by age. So younger workers, or more the millennial generation, were much more motivated by their direct managers, whereas some of the older workers were much more motivated by their peers. And so that was really interesting, and it helps you think about, how you might need to, you can't just promote a program at work through the HR department. You really have to get the direct managers involved, to walk the talk, right? And also create programs where you can create, competition or maybe a team-like atmosphere with people's colleagues to get them engaged in the program. I think 2 other things I'll mention real quickly was just the ability for engaging family members and how that can drive participation. So, overall, over 60% of the survey respondents said they would be much more likely to participate in their employer's programs if their families could be involved, right? So it goes beyond them as the individual employee. And, I thought that was an interesting finding because we had kind of heard that, but we hadn't seen that kind of data in a large-scale survey.
I think it just makes a lot of sense too. That that's the support system at home you have, and the family unit you have at home, kind of all working together for the common good, of better health and welfare. Their families.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about. Like you alluded to, I don't think it's surprising about awareness because we're still at the early stages of talking to employees about these type of programs. But I think it's interesting you focus on personalization because we're all different. Even all of us in the same age bracket are different, let alone the different age groups. Talk a little bit about that, about personalization and, why that's so important in empowering consumers. And talk a bit about what Welltok's doing around personalization, if you would, please.
Sure. So, as you know very well, right, I think the healthcare industry has traditionally thought of everyone in kind of this one-size-fits-all approach, right? And we, like you said, we know everybody is different. And so the thesis we had at Welltok was that you needed to take a personalized approach, and each person is going to be motivated by different things, have different interests, and, even when you're looking at incentives and rewards, right, be incentivized by different things. Some people might be incentivized by gift cards or cash or premium reductions, right? The fact that everybody's different. So the key to us was building a technology platform where you could actually serve up those different programs. So, for example, what we have done is develop this concept of the personal health itinerary. So if you and I are both employees at the same employer, of the same organization, historically what we both might have done is log into our company's portal, right, and we could see all the programs available, but what you see is the same as what I see, right, and it's hard to target the right programs to me and you. What our platform does is let, for example, each employee log in, and your home page would look very different from my home page because maybe I'm a new mom and I have asthma, right, or whatever it might be. I would see programs more tailored to me that are relevant to me, and maybe you have indicated you're more interested in financial well-being, right, or you've been very stressed out, right, and you might see programs that are more relevant to you. And by taking that personalization route, you're going to be much more likely to get you or I to participate in those programs because they're more relevant to us.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. So talk about the reception that you're getting from the market around personalization. If you're out talking to a health plan, a major employer, and others, what are they? they get this, they understand this, what's kind of their feedback as you kind of talk to them, and not only about the survey results, but about what you're doing?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. It's been very interesting. I think the feedback has really been that it's something that a lot of, the departments or, the business unit leaders have thought about, but they hadn't necessarily had a way to do it before. So I think most of the people we've talked to, they would agree with the statement you and I just talked about, right, that the industry has treated people as one size fits all, but they didn't really know how to solve the problem. And so I think, it's been interesting because when we talk about the concept, we don't really have to get anybody's buy-in. People are all on board. It's more around the fact of, wow, we didn't actually think we could do that. We thought we just had to put all of our resources out there in the same place and just get everybody to go to that place. But this idea of creating these personal health itineraries and personalizing it is what we've actually wanted to do in the past. We just haven't been able to. So far we've been getting a great reception. I think what's going to be interesting in the future, the rate limiting factor could also likely, be on the side of the employer or the health plan, in the sense of, once you actually have the ability to personalize, then you have to really think differently about the programs you offer, right? So, for example, maybe you only have one financial health or two financial health programs that you offer your population. When you have the ability to personalize, then you really need to think about, are there different type of financial health programs that millennials might be interested in versus my older population who's closer to retirement, right? And oh, go ahead, Doug. Yeah.
No, I was going to use your such as that if I'm a millennial, I've got college debt I'm trying to figure out. If I'm a senior employee, I'm trying to figure out how I get out of here and retire comfortably, right?
Exactly, right. And so I think that goes back to what we saw in the survey, right, is people saying they will do programs, and when they do them, they value them, but they have to be relevant to them.
Yeah. So what I think the overarching thing too, Michelle, and you guys live and breathe it every day, is that wellness and well-being is not going away. It's having a rebirth, and it's a very important part of controlling costs, improving health and productivity and retention, keeping people with an organization. So, what you're doing is pretty integral to saying, okay, we have these programs, but to have all three of those things come together, we've got to have our population engaged in them.
Yes, exactly. And then I think building on that is, I don't think that segment's going away anytime soon, but I think what I'm seeing, and I think, what our colleagues at NBGH also talked about in the webinar that we did, was that it's expanding in terms of kind of the breadth and scope. So moving beyond just thinking about health in one way and thinking about the financial health aspect, right? Because if you have employees that are having trouble paying their debts, right, or paying bills at home, that's going to affect the workplace, right, and their productivity at work. Same thing, the more and more research that comes out on social connectedness and understanding that people that have more social ties and are more involved in their community feel better, are healthier, are happier. With more of this new research coming out, I think you're seeing more of the larger, more innovative payers and employers, taking this more holistic approach to health and wellness, which is really exciting for me because I think all of those four areas work together. It's not just about exercising and eating healthy.
Right, exactly right. Anything else from the survey? We've got about a minute or so to go here, and I want to allow you to close it out here in a minute. But any other thing from the survey that you might want to share with our audience this morning?
Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to point out was just about different times that employees are motivated. So one of the concepts I talked about was personalization, in the sense of being able to offer up different programs to different individuals based on their needs and interests. One of the other questions we asked about, when was the best time to motivate you? So historically, a lot of times the HR department might send out a communication to everybody at a certain time, right, around open enrollment, right, or at the beginning of the year. Here's all the programs. And what we've found in the survey is that people are motivated at different times, and we saw that by gender, and we also saw that by age. So, some of the older employees were more motivated around clinical events, right? So the doctor gave them a recommendation, or around when they were doing health screenings. Whereas younger employees, it was more time of year, kind of beginning of the year and around summer. And so I think that really helps, by having a platform that not can only personalize the programs, but can alert people at different times based on when they're going to be most motivated, I think was kind of a really exciting finding. And it just goes to that personalization. It's beyond content, but also when you engage people, and that different people will be engaged, or more likely to be engaged at different times throughout the year.
That's very interesting stuff. Well, Michelle, it's been great having you on the program today. Very, very important stuff. Before I kind of get to a closing for you, where can people find information on the survey, Michelle?
Sure. So there's two places. There's actually if you go to welltok.com, we have the white paper on our website. The webinar that we did with NBGH during the summer is also hosted on the NBGH website. So if you go there, you can look for Whispers in the Water Cooler, what employees really think of your health and wellness programs.
It's good stuff, because we talk a lot about consumerism. It's a good timing to do something that surveys actually these consumers, these employees that are consumers. It's very good feedback, and I appreciated it. Leave our audience with a few takeaways, Michelle.
Sure, yeah. So I think if I had kind of takeaways from the survey, right, greater personalization and awareness is needed if you really want to drive consumer engagement. Rewards are really key, both intrinsic and extrinsic. Age, gender, and income can really have differences on the participation in your program, so think carefully about who you're targeting, what programs you have available, and can they meet the whole spectrum of needs of your population.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Michelle, and interested people can find you at welltok.com, correct?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye, Doug.